everybody. Thank you for joining us on this cloudy, kind of mopey day. We have a little bit of sprinkles going on in northern Minnesota here, and the best news: a lot of the lakes, the ice has gone out. Big lakes like Winnie and Leech, there's still some floating mush out there, or some solid parts too that are going to probably end up on shore. But a lot of the lakes, even lakes that are 3,000 acres, like Round Lake and other lakes in the area. A lot of small lakes are all open, and so it's on its way. But the water is so cold. I like to sneak around before I go pan fishing in a boat. I always like to go hit some shore spots, and it's still cold. And we'll get into that as I bring on my co-host. But first, I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota for being an on-air sponsor to the show. Chesterburg Toyota has a state-of-the-art showroom for cars and trucks, and a big fix-it shop, oil change shop. I mean, they have many stalls, brand new, really cool spot. If you're looking for a car or you're looking to get some maintenance on your car, stop in at Chesterburg Toyota in Bemidji and say hi to Brian and the gang. They're just great people, and definitely give them your business. And also Timberline Sports. You're on your way up to the river, stop at Timberline Sports in Black Duck. They have piles of night crawlers for those big sturgeon. Get ready to hit some dinos up there. Stop in, say hi to Carl and John and the gang. They have everything from night crawlers. You could buy sturgeon rod. You could buy some gamma of hooks. You could buy a gun. And while you're waiting for your gun, you could go get a pizza. So they got everything there. Load up, get some gas, and head up to the river. Stop at Timberline Sports in Black Duck. Without any further ado, bring on Sam. He was a lure designer. Now he's a guy that designs videos and paints and wins state stamps like the turkey stamp. And if you haven't seen our episode last week, he is the winner of a turkey stamp. And Sam, come on, let's talk about this. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey, good. So not only did you paint and win against everybody else in the category, didn't you just go hunting recently?
Yeah, we had a really good weekend. So me and my buddy hunted all weekend, and I was able to get my turkey on Friday morning, and then was going to meet up with him on Saturday morning as well. And before I could actually get to him, he already had a bird roosted up and was off into the woods. So I sat at the state forest access and waited to hear the boom, and sure enough, he got his too. So it was a really, really good weekend of turkey hunting. I think we got a couple photos there.
Fantastic.
So, that was
Look at that bird.
And then here's my buddy nice. Jack. So yeah, it was good. We couldn't have asked for a better weekend out in the woods. So now turkey time is over, and it's time to start fishing for sure. So
well, I don't even want to buy a tag for a turkey. As soon as I do, they all take off. You know, they're white. They know when I'm coming for them, and I'll stick to fishing. The hunting thing, once in a while, I bump into a giant deer. But I mean, that deer has to be sleeping basically for me to catch them. But anyway,
I always tell people that.
Oh, Heather got into my turkey decoy there. We're practicing.
I tell people they're the dumbest, smartest birds in the woods. That either they're gonna just make your brain spin of the stuff they do, or one morning they're just gonna end up in your lap. And luckily for me and Jack, that we had those mornings where they came in really well. But yeah, they can be a huge challenge or super easy. All depends on the day you get them. So it's fun. I love chasing them.
Yeah, the problem is while you're waiting for them to come walking out and strutting, the sturgeon are biting up at Rainy River. Yes. I haven't gone, but I've talked to my buddies who I got one friend that patrols the river, just goes to see what's going on, you know, and when it gets nicer, he'll go. But it was packed up there this weekend, and the fish are biting really well. That's the thing.
Scrolling Facebook, it was turkey pictures and sturgeon pictures. So yeah, tis the season.
It is. Get up there and get one of these dinos. You know, this is a great time of year. You know, go stay in Badette and maybe stay at the Royal Dutchman there, where you can watch people fighting them when you're done fighting them yourself. And it's kind of a cool thing, you know, between when the season's closed, here's another opportunity. And then, of course, panfish. And we're going to talk a lot about panfish. This is all about panfish because, you know, starting next week, we got to really hammer on the walleyes because that season is just around the corner. but right now panfish are on us, and that's the important thing. So now we got a giveaway tonight. So check this out, Sam. We've got a kind of an opener day survival kit. Thanks to Jace Peterson for putting this together. Northland Fishing Tackle. Look at this hat, really cool. And look at all that tackle, jigs and rigs and slip bobbers and all kinds of stuff. That's like a whole tackle box right there, ready to go. And stick to the end of the show, and don't forget to comment, like, and share our stuff, and you're in to win. So remember that. And one winner, and we don't pick; it's all random. So keep commenting, liking, and sharing the show. And Sam, we also have another opportunity for people.
Additionally, Minn Kota's Humminbird's thrown in some stuff. So you get a hat, a rod sock, and a coupon for a 1-year subscription to the One Boat Network app. So comment One Boat Network, and Brooke will also be picking out a winner for that as well. And I tell you what, I love that app. It's so nice to just have on your phone, go anywhere. It's awesome.
And you got the super detailed lake maps. That's the whole thing, and it shows the shoreline, everything. So I love it. I use it a lot in the wintertime when I'm just out driving, looking how to get to lakes. Winter's easy.
Yep.
You just take the sled out there, you walk out there. And this time of year, you got to launch a boat and you got to try to get into these places or through some narrows. But so each season has its thing. I have to say I love winter more because you're on a sled and you could just go all kinds of cool places. But I love them both. And now I'm getting my stuff together. I got to put some more electronics on my guide boat. Getting it all explored up, and can't wait to use the new Humminbird. It is lights out on the ice. I could see fish from over 100 feet away, and I could see tiny lures. I could even see backstroke beetles and like little micro things. I had to actually tune it down because I could see all insect life in there. It's really cool. Can't wait to get those on the boat. And while we're getting together here, Sam, do you remember the day when people would just have everything hooked up to their starting battery in their boat?
Yeah.
Like all their electronics, everything, lights, you name it. It seems crazy, but it wasn't that many years ago.
Up with really small wires. It's kind of crazy how things have changed in the last years, but yeah, the new amp stuff is unreal. I know I run a 32 amp hour one right in the front, and that allows me to hook it directly to the lead cords of my forward facing sonar unit. I don't even have to splice in any wires for that. And that runs all that. And then you got the big ones that run in everything, right?
Well, yeah, for my river boat, I call it river. It's a Lund Tiller. It's a 2002 Mr. Walleye. You know, beater motor on there. Boat has a wrap because it was pretty scratched up and ugly. But let's just say I'm still using it. Love that boat for, going through muddy areas, whatever. But my guide boat, I don't want to trash. I keep that at home until I want my clients to like what they see. But I use a little. I'll use a 32 amp hour, but I have a 52, and I just take it out, go throw it in the garage on the shelf, charge it up, and it runs all my stuff all day. And it's so archaic that just a few years ago, people had stuff hooked up on one battery or two batteries. No, you got to have a separate battery for your electronics because this stuff used to be really expensive, and it is so affordable now. And you don't need a big battery if you're not guiding or in a tournament. Those little batteries are nice. They're portable. You can just take it out of your boat, keep it warm, and so it's a great opportunity for people to keep their stuff amped up. And I like that company. I chose Amped because when I went online to look at them, all of the stuff, all the different electronics, it shows you how long it lasts, all the different things you can do with it. It explained everything. And not only that, they answer the phone. So get amped and you get answered.
Bro, how big is that 52 amp hour in comparison to 32?
I could grab that. Hey, Heather, do you see that 52 amp hour? Yeah, let's see here. I got it somewhere. I got just a mountain slide of stuff here, but it's not much bigger than the 32.
32.
And it's so light. It feels like they forgot to put something inside of it. No, that's just how it is. Thank you, dear.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah,
there.
look at that thing.
If this was lead acid, this would be like this would be a brick,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and so you just hook up, you just wire a couple of tabs on there and put the plugs in, and you're set. But you take it with you. I mean, they'll last forever. Just take care of them, keep them warm, keep them. On the ice they still last. I guess you don't have to keep them warm, but so Sam, it's a time of year right now when people are thinking and getting ready for walleyes, but some people have a day or two they want to get out, and even I just got back from Park Falls, had a great time uh, at the St. Croix factory store, and they have a bait shop in the store right there, and we had a big event there. It's spring pre-walleye event, and what a great time to do something like that. And their walleye seasons it starts at a different time than ours, and so they're getting ready now. So it was really fun seeing a lot of the people at the factory and being in Wisconsin. So I haven't had a lot of time to fish myself. I'm driving more than
Me neither.
fishing.
Well, we just got ice out too.
Yeah,
We just
yeah,
got
and
ice
so
out.
I forgot last week to show people. I got out and I did a little last ice fishing by the border, and here's a crappie I caught. This one was 2.5 pounds. It was just shy. It was 2.7. Just an amazing fish, and it fought. I thought I had maybe an eel pout or a smallmouth bass or something on. You never know when you're up at those border waters. There's some big stuff, but I ain't never seen anything like this one. What a hog! And that's a northern Minnesota hog. That thing, down south, they'll show pictures of big crappies, but this was through the ice, and we had over 30 inches of ice. But that was the last day I went out, and I said I'm done because the shorelines are just shot, and it gets to a certain point. Love it, on a snowmobile with liquid cool, you could just go. I probably could use it in the summer if I had wheels under the skis because it's liquid cooled, but just go and go. But I'm done. I want to get my boats going. Had fun time on the river, and we're going to do a little sturgeon hunting. But right now it's panfish.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't talk about this very often, but on this show, just for our viewers, we're going to talk about ice out perch. It's kind of a mystery. Some people don't understand that there's some people who love perch fishing and they love eating them. And Sam, what's available at ice out? Have you ever chased them?
I've actually never really done it before. It's always I'm always chasing the river, chasing turkeys, or after that panfish straight to walleye. But so I've never done the ice out perch thing. I know you talk about it a lot.
Yeah, I actually, for many years, I guided for ice out perch. It was kind of a filler. I mean, I don't do something else. I'm not a professor or a school teacher, and then I have my summers off that I guide. I only guide. I'm a fisherman. I guide and I have sponsors. So I do 100% make my living on fishing. So I need to, find some other ways to have some guide trips. And I guided for perch because people love eating perch. Perch are go with everything, every recipe. They're a firm fish and they're like walleyes, but a little bit sweeter. But when the ice goes out, perch from the time it goes out and the water's in the 40s and it rises, it gets closer to 50s. By the time it's 52 degrees, the perch have all spawned out, and all that is left are the males. Just like walleyes, the male perch will linger. Right now, you could go out and you get, throw the big females full of eggs back, but you're going to catch the biggest perch, biggest, heaviest perch of the year right now, and all these same waters. And we would go out and catch perch that were just solid, pushing 2 pounds, let them go, but we get pictures and then keep the males. And you know which ones are the males. You just hold them away from you when you catch them because they do make a mess. But they have the most meat. The females' bellies are distended, and the males have all meat on them. So it's kind of a cool target and
So
a resource that I kind of like to say walleyes and perch in my area are the farmer's corn. It's something that's replaces themselves with year class recruitments, and it's the corn of ice, corn of fishing.
so what areas do you target chasing those ice out perch? Is it on the edges of pencil reed beds? Is it up in the pencil reed, sand flats? What are you looking for?
That's a secret. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, any kind of weed substrate they use to stick their eggs come out like a pantyhose skein. So if you go into a weed bed and you're looking in the water's clear, hey, how you doing, Goose? If yeah, that's fun. That's great. He got out and hammered some perch. But if you can see in the water and you see the skeins of eggs that the females have spawned, well, you don't have to leave. Now you just fish in there and get the males. And I shot a show on ice out perch with James Linder years ago. This is, I want to say, like 16, 18 years ago. And we went to Bemidji, right in the middle of a town with thousands of people. And, you could hear the traffic, people going to college, heard a few, cops with their sirens on, and we were catching perch up to 13 and a half and did a show out there. And it was a lot of fun. You could sight fish them, and we didn't keep any, but he couldn't believe the quality of perch right there. So it just opens your mind what's available on all these big perch lakes. Now, again, I'm stressing throw the big females back and keep the males. The males are the ones that are just straight, and the females have the distended belly. But so you want to fish in hard bottom areas, like the edges of bulrushes, can be good if they're deep. Cara is a skeletal algae. So this algae grows in mats on sand in different areas. And lakes like Mille Lacs, Leech, Winnie have cara that actually pillows up because it has no roots. So it'll be its own structure. And cara is a super vegetation, meaning it when fish lay eggs in them. So eel pout lay eggs in them, walleyes lay eggs next to them and in them, and everything uses them. A perch do also, but they have an antifungal agent in the vegetation. So it's a super vegetation, but it has no roots. You find that stuff, that's going to be a perch mecca. But if you don't find that, look for weed stubble because the weeds haven't grown in yet. But that stubble, they could stick their eggs. And on Bemidji, when I shot that show, if you could look up the show, we were fishing on the edge of the rushes in weed stubble. And in some areas, you could actually find them where they're sticks. You go out to the Dakotas, nobody's looking for ISO perch. They got all kinds of hunting seasons and they got other stuff going on. Matter of fact, they don't even want to talk about perch in North Dakota outside of the winter season because they're saving them for winter. But that doesn't mean you and I can't go there. And the perch are going to be using willow branches, brushy stuff, not big sticks, but branchy areas. And here's some questions here. Sam, what do you think about the barometric pressure app there?
I know I don't use it as much as you do. I got the one that you have though. I forget what it's called, but I think it's Hunt Fish Barometric. I also think the iPhone weather app tells you now too.
Yeah, it'll tell you right on the weather.gov.
I don't do it as much as I should. Just because I'm not like you, where I'm out fishing every day, so I'm fishing when I can go fishing. And if I really start struggling, then I maybe take a look at the pressure. But if I got a day to go, I'm probably just gonna go anyways. So,
so basically, you could take it and you could zoom in. I'm moving it around a lot, and this is a different app here. This is Minnesota's current barometric pressure app, but also on weather.gov they have it. And I'll go out of here and I'll show you real quick.
Tell everyone the magic zone. I think that's the thing that always surprised me at how.
So it measures it in inches. So it's a simple way to understand what's going on. Anytime it's above 2990 up to 3005, they will eat your jigs. All you got to do is wiggle your finger in the water. You're going to catch fish. When it goes really high in the high 30s, the fish get squirrely. They're uncomfortable, but their bladders actually shrink, which makes them kind of float up. When it's really low, it is tough. It's tough. Big fish that have big air bladders, the pressure is less on it, so it expands. and they're just simple light switches, these walleyes and everything else. When that pressure light switch goes down, they go down. But the little fish still bite. So on the days when the big fish ain't biting, go for perch. Hey, if you're not in a walleye tournament, then we could say, forget about the walleyes. And I have friends that will, if we don't go for walleyes, they don't want to fish. I mean, but I like to fish for everything. I want pulls bent, I want bites, and I love jumbo perch. But I don't like to clean a big pile of perch. I had to do it a lot when I was younger. And so barometric pressure, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. And why don't perch grow on some lakes and they're so small and too many? Well, we know that, Sam.
I think in the smaller lakes they are such an important food source for the bass and the pike and whatnot that a lot of them get eaten, and there just isn't that carrying capacity to get big. I also think the big lakes just do a better job supporting them, so they do get big. Um,
Yeah, it's a food thing also. If you look at the perch triangle of Minnesota, which is an upside down triangle, so you've got from Bemidji to Grand Rapids, basically, and then down to Mille Lacs. Everything outside of that, there are a few lakes that have jumbo perch. Not quite what we think jumbo perch. Maybe someone from somewhere else that has small perch would come there and go, "Oh, these are nice," and we'd go, I'm not driving there,"
so
But
I grew up vacationing on a small lake near Park Rapids, and I remember one time I caught maybe a 9 incher, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the biggest perch I've ever seen." And then I came up to school in Bemidji and was quickly relearned what a jumbo perch was. So
there's such a dynamic thing there. If there's a lot of food, just tons of food, there has to be insect a life, crayfish, of course, minnows. If there is just a dynamic food source, it grows big perch. If there's not a lot of food, they stunt. And then when
yep,
they stunt,
they turn into the food.
yeah, so they did a study on Winnie, and this was crazy, but I remember 18 years ago was the last really good year, and I know the resort owners, most of them, the old ones, and we talk about it all the time. We talked about it 5 years. It was common talk that the perch are all stunted out there, and they were spawning. The DNR said at smaller links, they're spawning. They weren't growing, so they're spawning early at 7-8 inches, and that's not good. But now, the lake kind of Cass had rusty crayfish and it had big perch. Well, those things kind of came through. They redid the dam, and it seemed like right after that, all the weeds disappeared from the west side all the way to north end of Winnie. And then I seen some rusty crayfish shells on the shore. And I said, "That's a rusty. It's got the big orange spot." And slowly the perch just started growing because when they lose their shell, the fish go from spot to spot and they pick off the soft, delicious crayfish. And it's just a big shot of protein. It's not like one little tiny shrimp or a mouthful of shrimp. It is just it's a big pizza in their mouth. So rusty crayfish really helped boost it back. And there's plenty of food for them. And I truly think that when he's back, and we're seeing bigger ones than I seen earlier in my guide life. We never seen over 13 and 3/4. We're seeing 14 and a half once in a while now.
We should really have a biologist on here. But do you know? I think stunting. A lot of people think that's genetic based.
Mm-hmm.
If obviously if that food source comes back in a lake like Winnie, those fish are going to be able to overcome that. So I feel like it's more of a carrying capacity food based thing than genetic wise, because that those fish eventually get bigger. And even that, you see that in lakes that you think get stunted, around here. A lot of times that's just a freeze out or something, or low bait or whatnot. So
Well, yeah, when a lake freezes out, those lakes are going to have dynamic perch because there's just food available for everything. Perch are cannibals also, but you go back, no one fished them way back when. They ate their leech in Minnesota. That was a rough fish. They'd feed them to the seagulls back then. And I hate to say it when people say, "Oh, eagles need to eat." No, they don't. They could eat something out of a ditch too, but So perch will grow if there's food. Then some lakes just don't have they're missing something, and or they're too far stunted and they're spawning at a younger age, but they're really good for walleyes. You go over to Ottertail, it's a walleye factory. That when I visited it to pre-fish for tournaments, I couldn't believe how many walleyes are in that lake. It was unbelievable, and it's just full of little perch. And every now and then you get a 10.5 or 11, and you never seen a 12 or 13. Maybe they're there, but a lot of these shallow lakes, river systems are dynamic for perch. Lakes that have a lot of different things going on will have some really big perch. And even in the Arrowhead, there's big perch. But they might be older than you and I combined. I mean, those fish are like antiques. I'd hate to harvest a meal of fish out of these little tiny lakes in Arrowhead because they're super old. They're the oldest perch, like up at Gogebic in the UP. Those are they're old, and but they get big there because they have such a buggy biomass. But we're getting some questions here. Does does temperature play a factor? Find warmer water. I'll let you go with that one, Sam.
It's my favorite thing. I think it's most crucial in the spring is find the warmest water, and a lot of time you're going to find the most active fish. I'm always looking for warm water, looking for black bottom bays, bays on the north side of the lake that are getting more sun, areas where the wind has been blowing into for a few days. Finding the warm water can really mean finding the fish.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So remember, I say, fish are just a light switch. Warm water turns their switch on. And if you go to large bodies of water like Mille Lacs, I used to fish crappies on Mille Lacs, and you think northwest corner? No, because that's sand and rock up there. That's a walleye factory. But the boat harbors are loaded. If you can get in there, you might have a dog barking at you or someone yelling at you. But boat harbors up there, but it's a south side thing because they have bays with weeds, and the shorelines will be lined up with people. You can catch them from shore. Why launch a boat and be out with other boats if you could just cast and catch them, carry a bucket, carry rod? And so it's different on every lake, but temperature is a big deal. And so that's an anomaly. The fact that Mille Lacs, some of the best crappie fishing's on the south end and in the boat harbors, but that's because that's where the bays are. It's a big bowl with some little bays down there, and you get farther up north, from Brainerd on up, and they've been just really doing well on panfish all throughout the Brainerd Lakes area to, up to Longville, and we're still behind. It's still cold, so temperature, we're way back there, and there's still floating ice next to shore here and there, even on the little lakes. It's cold by the lake. You go there, I'm just going to wear a t-shirt. I'm like, no, I'm going to put on this Avco hoodie here because it's cold by the lake because it's like ice fishing. The water temperatures are barely 40. And so it really kicks off when it gets in the 50s. And when you find those boiling piles of minnows, they look like just huge clouds in the shallows. That is the best time to catch the crappies, and you catch the biggest crappies of the year. You catch the biggest perch of the year, and the bluegills are in there. They're getting theirs, even though they're super late spawners. Everything's eating, and then so you take all these mitigating factors, and then have the walleye season opener right there. It is just a fantastic time to fish in the next 2 weeks.
So, bro, even though the bluegills spawn the latest, it almost seems like sometimes they move up into the shallows quicker than the crappies. Is that true?
Absolutely, and so it's crazy. It doesn't matter where you go. If you're way up in the shallows and the water's starting to get in the 50s, you'll look and you see little raindrops, but you'll see little bugs coming out, and they're coming out. It's midge flies hatch from the time that mud gets warm to almost when it's too late. You're like, they shouldn't be coming out in the fall, and you still see midge flies just by mass giant volume. There's midge flies everywhere. They fly up, and the bluegills are in there picking them off. And I've seen bluegills in a foot of water, even less, whatever they can fit in, wherever there's bugs. And like I say, backstroke beetles, you can see them in the shallows, freshwater shrimp, anything that's in there biting, and it's really fun to go after. And so I got a question here. Someone just came in. On Winnebago, they find perch 16 feet of water on average. Spawning in the river. After spawn, do they go back to the deep water? They drop over the closest edge, and they will sit tight there. And they're so close to the bottom. I like to call it side imaging water. You know, if you take your hummingbird with side imaging, you'll see lumps on the bottom. So you don't see them off the bottom, so you just see lumps. And sometimes you catch a shadow if one's a little higher. So look for that lumpy bottom, and it's going to be fantastic. And they're going to be there, but they're going to be really a light bite. So it's you know, there's a lot of fish close by from where you find them spawning, and they'll slowly retreat back because there's a lot of food there. But they'll stay on the shoreline, flats and weeds, the food shelves basically. But great questions. And then do you use slip floats for panfish? What do you ever use them, Sam?
I like using a slip all year long. They're a little bit more to get rigged up in the spring when you can probably get away from with a clip bobber. But the slip doesn't muck up your line. It's nice to fish. You can adjust your depth really easily. If you're on a windy day where those fish do sometimes push off a little deeper than traditional spring fishing, I like the slip.
Yeah, I agree. And I would show you a clip on bobber. I had one. I got snagged, and when you're on shore, you're at the mercy of where your line's going to break. And I had to watch it float for like a half hour because it was kind of calm where I was at. And those little clip-on bobbers with the weight at the bottom, I love those. They're just barely floating your jig. You could zing them from shore, put on braid and then a fluorocarbon leader, and you're okay. But when I'm fishing in pencils and stuff like this, I have this rigged up with a heavier 7-pound fluorocarbon to a 4-pounder at fluorocarbon at the bottom because it doesn't cut into the weed. Then you get stuck. But there's a great question here out of in eastern South Dakota. Many of the lakes I fish in eastern South Dakota are just large bowls with little structure. They do have perch and crappie. Any tips for locating them, and do they typically roam in the bowls? You know, I don't know, Sam. I don't think they roam. Do you?
I would guess springtime they are moving towards that that warmer water, and even in a bowl like that, there's going to be warmer water somewhere in that bowl. Just always keep an
Absolutely.
eye on your graph, and a slight, even a couple of degrees can make the world of difference. So
Absolutely,
just
and I agree. And where's the warmest water? Where it's calm.
yep.
You get these. We're in a little bit of a cold front here, bearing down from the northwest. So the northwest side of the lake is calm, and anytime the sun comes out, it really warms up that bottom. And you have a lot of insect life there. Throughout the Dakotas, they did really good with the original bloodworm. The original bloodworm plastic from Northland. That was one of my concepts. That was over 20 years ago, and that little tiny bloodworm, we caught them around Devils and the small lakes and Wabae and little lakes around the Dakotas. When it was just a lot of fun chasing. But they eat bloodworms there. There's insects
Mhm.
there. There's mayflies, but they have so much shrimp. Well, if you eat burgers every day, you're probably going to want to have a hot dog once in a while.
Yeah.
So it does work. But I think all
And
you need is one branch, and they'll hold to it.
yeah, the spawning habitat or just potential habitat too. Bottom content. It's like you said, they're going to want a little variety in their meals, and they're going to want to stay at the nicest hotel. So
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
even though they all might look the same, you're going to be, you're picking out a hotel. You scroll through the pictures and you find the one that looks a little bit nicer than the others. So just the
Absolutely.
best habitat around. A bowl is rarely identical. So.
And a good hunter will walk the whole woods around the area that they're going to hunt to make sure they're not setting a stand next to another stand. Nothing would ruin your morning. But when you're fishing a lake, you want to investigate everything, but start with the the really cutting edge details. Like the north side is going to be a big deal. But if you're looking at your hummingbird, because you can look at maps before you go and on your One Boat Network app, look at the south end too. I'm in an area where there's something called a Laurentian divide, Everything north of me, even like a half a mile, the rivers flow north. And here, if I go a half mile the other way, all the rivers flow south. It's crazy, but you're right on that edge. So you have to check out different areas. But panfish, crappies, perch, they don't want that wind pounding into them either. And they're panfish. There's going to be pike and walleyes in that agitated water. But so if you find a little bit of, I'm not saying big trees, but if you find brush, you're going to find fish. So, and the best temperature I have found is when it gets closer to the lower to mid 50s, everything's in full swing. If it's lower than that, you really, really, really have to pay close attention. We're getting a lot of questions. We'll move fast here. What is your double top secret for fishing early perch? The most important thing is I like tight lining them. So I'll go up and I'll put my talons down. If I wasn't a guide, I wouldn't have a boat this nice. I mean, I wouldn't be able to afford it for one thing, but I put 2 talons down and I hold still, and I'll sight fish them and I'll hold the jig. When they get really close to the spawn, they're real fussy. They won't turn right or left. It has to be right in front of them. But if you're pitching bobbers, just make sure to check the depth and fish really close to the bottom. And perch aren't afraid of the boat as much. You can actually sight fish them in some lakes, but some lakes you can't. It's darker, or it gets muddled up, or there's bog stain coming in. Then you got to pitch around. And in other states, you could use multiple rods with bobbers. But I always like to pitch a bobber. And a bobber doesn't mean put your feet up and crack open a Diet 7-Up or whatever you drink. Bobber is a lot of work. It's like casting because you're constantly tipping that bobber when you're jigging, and you're getting that thing to move. So those are really great questions. Here's one for you, Sam. How do you catch gills when they rob you before the bobber stands up?
So for me, I think I would micro tune your bobber setup and also downsize your jig. So that tells me 2 things. If they're robbing you and leaving, they're either feeling your bobber or whatever presentation you have is too big for those fish. So by getting a nice small bobber, they won't field as much as they pull, and then a smaller jig, they're going to be able to suck that whole thing in. And I think you're going to have better hookups.
Absolutely. And sometimes
things.
If you just use a plain hook here, this you could actually not weight it so it's standing up. You could have it so it sits sideways. So when it stands up, you get a bite. And that's one thing. And also something I learned from Paul Nelson a long time ago, but it wrecks your bobber, is he'll crack the paint and slide the bobber up real tall. So when you tip it, it lifts it more. And so that was a really good technique. If you balance it so just the top is sticking out, when you pull it up and it comes back down, you get a little bit more action too. So, but sometimes the sideways floating bobber, and then when the fish stands it up, you got them. So you can make bobbers real sensitive, but pencil bobbers, go as light as possible. These light bite bobbers are fantastic, and they work really well. But any little twitch, you gotta use the force, like Star Wars kind of stuff, because if you could see them, if we had a Hubbard Mega Live 2 pointed at them, you could see the bluegill come up to it, and when you see them flare, you pull back and you feel them. Or Aquaview, you see the wax worm disappear. Well, that, it doesn't get better than that. You have that strapped around your neck walking around. But so when they're robbing you, gills do what they call the blow suck, and they spit it out. So they are suck blow. Sounds crazy. My neighbors probably
they pop, and as quickly as they can suck it in, they spit it back out, just like
trout. They spit it out, and they have crushers in their throat, so they get little invertebrate, they get little zebra mussel smolts, or right when they become shelled creatures, they can crush them in their throat, and that's the difference. Bluegills, bass, and perch have crushers. Walleyes don't. That's why they pinch with their teeth. They're like they're pinchers. They pinch them, and then they have a fragile throat. Then they swallow. So bluegills are spitting it out when you're setting the hook, and then whatever's left on your hook just got ripped off, and they're just dining on it. So when that's happening. That's why we love them, because they're not easy to catch sometimes. If they just like jump in your bucket, then that's no fun. So
I can't
and
wait
then
to
also,
catch some big bluegills this spring. I'm
oh, they're
jonesing
just
for it.
a hoot. And so here's I got a picture here on one of my shore spots of a bluegill. And actually, I fish around and I love shore spots. And some of these spots, right there, I'm about ready to take a nap after walking way in down a trail. But there's little lakes all throughout Minnesota, Wisconsin, Dakotas, Iowa have all those farm ponds that the juice is worth the squeeze. If you could walk back there and you catch stuff like this, and then you can see I got a lot of hazards there. If I don't get him up on top of the surface, he's gone. I'm going to lose the whole works. And there's a clip on bobber. But shore fishing this time of year is amazing because you know where the fish are. They're not out in
Mhm.
the middle. They're where all the them sticks end. They're right there, and they will give you the hardest fight you'd ever imagine. But love the shore stuff. When the wood ticks start coming out, time for the boat. But so yeah, that was a great question. Thanks everybody for keeping them coming. What's a good test line for crappies? A lot of times, and Sam, you're probably on the same page, but I use a lot of 4 sunline sniper, and I'll use that because I can use it in the weeds. And if I'm in a place with with a lot of pike, I'll use leader material like a 6 pound because it's hard. And with zebra mussels, you don't have to worry. So you can use 3 in open areas, but if you're in any kind of plumes or vegetation, logs, and stuff like that, you want 4 or 5 pound tests. And when you get into hard stem rushes, I don't know. What do you think about that, Sam?
I think in those, that's when I like to use a braid to a leader.
Yeah.
Just I feel like you can get away with a little bit more. Do you ever do that braid to a leader for panfish?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of
I
fact, I
know
got one right here.
it's sometimes harder to get your bobbers to stick that light braid. But I like to have one set up with braid and one set up with mono.
And then definitely, if you're using a braid or if you use mono to a fluorocarbon, make sure that your line down to your hook, the leader, is a breaking strength that's a lot less than the pound test you have in your reel. So if you have 10-pound test, you want to have 4 or 5 at the bottom to make sure it breaks. So if you hook a log like they asked in that question, you can snap it and then retie really fast. And if you're really hardcore about this, you could have a speed clip and have your jigs tied, ready to go. You clip off the other clip, clip this on, and you're back in it. And so that's the important thing. So light line, and then lower test towards the bottom, so you can snap it. You want to snap it because some lines are so strong you can snap the tip of your rod. So point the rod at it and pull the line. Don't snap at the rod. That's rod abuse right there. So here's one for you, Sam. What size crappies and sunfish do you throw back, and what size do you keep?
I don't keep a whole lot of bluegills altogether, but we do keep some crappies from here and then, and I like to just be around that 10-inch range. I feel like that's good where you're going to get a nice size fillet. Um, Anything under 9, you got to keep almost twice, 3 times as many fish to get the same
For
amount of
crappies.
meat. Yep, for crappies. And then above 11, you got to send those ones back so they can turn into those 12s, 13s, 14s. So I like to really be around that 10-inch range.
Well, and then you get up by red. It might be 12 or less you can keep
Yeah,
because
that's
everything up
true.
there's. I
Yep.
mean, and when they hatch out of the egg, they're 12 inches on Red Lake. I
Yep.
mean, and Lake of the Woods and all those other lakes up there. But yeah, definitely smaller crappies taste better. Don't have to take the pin bones out. Those perfect 10-11s are good. Bluegills, I love bluegills. But in Minnesota and even in the Dakotas, Wisconsin especially, you shouldn't keep any gills over 9 inches. Now, it's kind of a unilateral thing, and a lot of different uh, fishing professionals around. Some say 9.5 or 10. That's just a way of cheating. Okay, 9 is the cutoff. You talk to anybody, any fisheries person, that is the most uh, volatile thing is to take a bunch of bluegills over 9. Even if the lake's got them, put them back. Keep this 8-inch bluegill is not small. 8.5 is not small. They're still big. And some people call an 8.5 bluegill 10. I've seen it. I've watched people. Oh, this is 10. And I said, no, it's not. You measure it. It's like 8.5, 8 3/4.
10-inch bluegill is massive.
Yeah.
When you
So
get it in your hands.
Oh, we throw them back if they're under 10. Well, that's
Yeah.
real gracious of you, but 9 is the mark. Talk to any fisheries anywhere. And even the places where they said that these lakes can never be harmed in other states, I've heard it said, or have been harmed. There's nothing left. And even in the river backwaters down south between Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, phenomenal fishing, protect it. And they impose limits and slots for a reason. Get the big one, take a picture. Your grandkid catches one, he could harvest one for the wall, his biggest ever PB. But you don't have to take a whole school. You know what I mean? Just one. But the adults, they don't need it. If you fish them all the time, you don't need to. There's no reason. 9 and up, go back in any state, except for a photo, or if you want to mount one. Mounting one fish never killed off a lake. And you just got to do it that way, especially if you get to fish a lot. If you don't get to fish a lot, I understand where people get excited and stuff, but there's in our area, we're a low panfish populations compared to walleyes. We're more of a walleye perch area in this triangle. And you get outside of it, like west, their populations are super high on bluegills and crappies and Brainerd, Longville area. They just have way more. And even southern Minnesota has a fast growing fish. But in our little area, it is walleye factory, hard bottom, and there are panfish. They're big, but their populations are low. And when you do find a lake that has a lot of them, and we've had lakes that are just phenomenal, they're just they're boom and bust. And the reason they get hard to find, because I've talked to many people fish in my area, where are they? Well, they're in small areas because they're in small schools. So let's move on here. What are your go-to jigs for perch size and color? I absolutely love the tungsten crappie king jig. This one right here, and I think I have a picture I sent here to Brooke of a bunch of fishing lures in plastics. This is my secret treasure trove of baits for heading out to the lake, but I love to share them with my friends. And they're pan candy. I absolutely love these, and these are little 1.5-inch baits that you can put a little jig head on, and that's tungsten. And I mean, it is smaller than its weight. In a regular lead head jig in this weight would be big. This is a great color, great size, and a nice, just the right amount of hackle with a little bit of flash in it, just perfect. And the only problem with these is I catch a lot of walleyes when I'm fishing for panfish. Maybe that's not a problem. Great designs there, and I know somebody who designed these. So that's one of them, and then of course small crappie king tungsten jig heads like that with a couple of wax worms. Just fantastic for panfish, and then size. You want to use smaller sizes, but when you're in open water, right now, 8 and 10 sized hooks are great. 16th ounce is perfect in our area. If you get into an area with a tougher bite, pressured lakes, then you have to go down to a 32nd or 64th ounce, especially in pressured or different areas like that. And so micro and then go bigger later. That's the important thing. And I like some of these other type of flies. I was throwing these earlier. Those are a tungsten, also cool. Got that little eye. Phenomenal. Love it. And just add a waxy. They got a lot of color to them. And let's see here. Let's get through our questions. Boy, the questions are flying here. It's gonna be. I hope you win, you guys. Whoever's. So finicky crappie. How do you hook minnows a certain way instead of just through the lip? Sam, you're gonna go crappie fishing. How are you gonna hook a minnow? Then I'll do my part too.
I'm mostly a lip hooker come spring. And I think for me, it's a lot of times I'll use it on a jig head anyways to add some color to it. And then also when you're pulling through that cover, if you lip hook them, it's easier to kind of, it acts a little bit more weedless getting through the cover. So I'm almost always lip hooking, but I'm curious to see what you say.
Dorsal hook is nice if you got a cold front and you're on a body of water that has a lot of crappies and you're fishing big ones. Dorsal, those big ones just destroy them. But my favorite way to hook them is behind the head. So not through the spine. There's just a little bit of meat there. Go behind the head. I call it T-boning them. So when the panfish grab them, it's closer to their front lip. But they wiggle the whole lure that way. If it's in the dorsal, the moving part by the head isn't shaking it as much. It's giving it a little wobble. But if you T-bone them, like right behind the head, they shake the bait, and it's close to their lips. And I do that for perch in the winter. Everything. If you're fishing ice out perch, and you're going to go embark on it, try hooking right behind the head, not through the skull, where the skull ends, that little bit of meat there. And I've been using a lot of Gamakatsu Siwash hooks and putting them on my ice fishing spoons. So I have these little cool, like Slim Spoon, tungsten buckshot from Northland Tackle with a little Siwash hook, and then you hook them through the back of the head. Fantastic. You guys, you got to try it. But through the lips, I agree with Sam. When you're fishing in any kind of substrate, hook them through the lips and just enough. And sometimes if you have to hide the hook a little bit, I'll go in and come up behind the head on one side or the other so you don't kill it. And it works really good. And percentage of plastics versus live bait for perch. Boy, it's really changing now. The way plastics have evolved, some of my favorite color or favorite shapes are like this one, Sam. That looks like a little crayfish, or it could be a larva. That on a jig head, they float.
Mini Ned.
Yep, it's like a little mini Ned. Get a tungsten stand-up jig head in a 16th ounce and put that on there, and you're going to catch perch until you have holes in your fingers from touching those sharp little gill plates of theirs. But the thing is, too, they're indestructible.
Yeah.
Just don't want to snap yourself in the eye with this thing.
And that's another thing that's going to help our previous commenter. I didn't see the name on it, but who was asking about getting picked by bluegills is having that TPE down there. The pan candy, you're always going to have bait on. Very rarely do they pick that off.
Well, and I agree with that. And we'll run through a few more questions here. But before I go too far, I just want to tell everybody, remember, this Saturday, if you want to come out and chat, if you're in the area, I'm going to be at the Smoky Hills Outdoor Store in Park Rapids. And I'm going to be there from 10 to 2. And I'm going to be right there. I'm going to be near the Northland stuff. Let's talk about panfish. Maybe you can work some more secrets out of me. But come by, say hi, talk to me at Smoky Hills Saturday. And, that way I have someone to visit with. If I'm not fishing, I want to talk about it. So stop in Smoky Hills in Park Rapids, 10 to 2. I'll be there. They got new owners, and it's going to be like a little celebration.
Bring the boat and buy some bait and go out fishing afterwards. It's probably going to be really good pan fishing in Park Rapids next week. So
I'm bringing my fishing poles because there's a few shore spots there that I know of, and I don't get there very often. So it's an excuse to go there and fish too. But what's your best guess? What's the best live bait options? Waxworm is pretty hard to beat. It's a little bigger than a maggot. Maggots are nice and they work great, but waxworms make a mess in the water, and it's just like a big blood trail. And they're big, meaty, and it's like it's a mocha latte of coffee. It's just got a lot of stuff going on. So I like waxies, a couple waxies, one smashed on there, mashed, and then one hanging off. What do you say, Sam?
Well, I was just going to ask you, do you think it almost seems like some lakes, like they're moody eaters. Like some lakes really like live bait and different types of live bait. Some lakes are minnow, some lakes are waxy, and some lakes are plastic. Is that what you see? Or is it time of year? What kind of controls that, do you think?
Well, it seems to me cold water, you want a waxy, And then as we start getting in the mid to late 40s temps, then you could start going to plastics. And when it's in the 50s to the low 60s, you can do it all in plastics. And I scent my plastics. I scent all of them, and I use a mild scent. I know I got buddies that use everything, and I'm not sponsored by a scent company, but I use a mild like a squid or an emerald shiner or leech or nightcrawler, just a mild scent, and then later in the year. But they do love krill, so like an oil, and I'll put a few drops in with the pan candy or the eye candy, and it works really good. You don't you don't want to scent everything up with the same scent. Just do one or two at a time because you don't want to ruin them and put something bad on there. And had really good luck, and the fish will hold it like it's a piece of steak
Yeah.
to them. And then we're getting close to the end here. Do you ever glue your plastics on, Sam?
Uh, a little bit with panfish, all the time bass fishing. It's just gonna the TPE stuff is gonna last you days instead of fish.
Yeah,
So almost always it kind of gunks up your jig, but yeah, just get super glue. Super glue is the way to do it. I like. I believe it's Loctite brand has kind of a gelled stuff that
yes.
comes in the easy squeeze container.
Hmm.
It's like a black, gray, and blue container that works great. Glue it on there, and that thing's gonna last you all day.
I agree. If you're going to be fishing hardcore, and you have your favorite presentation, it's worked for you, glue it on and just leave it on. I'll say to that, I do take all my eye candy and pan candy off and put them back in the
Mhm.
tray because they just last longer. You treat them like it's a bunch of crankbaits. I mean, they do cost money, so I try to save as much as possible. And even if I have a bunch, pretty soon I'll have none. And Sam's seen that happen to me. And someone was asking how to book a guide trip with me. All you got to do is go to brosguideservice.com and it'll all be there. And just give me a shout. Let me know when you want to go in my big bad Lund 219 glass 400 V10, and we'll catch fish too. But I don't go that fast. But I love the boat because when you just go. If it's windy, if it's not, or if there's waves, you just go anywhere. And we're not out to beat anybody up, and I just want the best boat for my clients. And yeah, just let me know. We'll go out and get some. And outside of that, we're getting close to the end here. Uh, do we have a winner for the Northland stuff? Let's show what they're going to win here, real quick. A picture of the Northland stuff, real quick. Let's get them excited. Look at that pile of stuff. Oh my gosh, get ready. There's a big box coming your way. And Sam, do we
Yep. So
have a winner?
we got them picked out here. So the Northland stuff is going to be Blair Boys Jolly. I hope I'm saying that right. So congratulations, Blair. And then
Congratulations, Blair.
the One Boat Network package with the hat and the 1-year subscription to the One Boat Network app is going to be Aaron Francois. So congratulations, Aaron. We'll be reaching out to you, get some shipping information, and have those sent out to you. So
Yeah, so make sure you guys send your address to here so we can send them out because we want to make sure you get there and get ready for the opener. And I want to tell everybody, thanks for watching the show, but most importantly, I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota for supporting us on air here, the on air sponsor, and they have a state of the art dealership in Bemidji, Toyota dealership. Stop and talk to Brian and the gang. They will help you out with buying new car, new trucks. If you want to get a used one or just do maintenance on your vehicle, they have a really, really nice facility and they're super nice there. Chesterburg Toyota in Bemidji. And then on your way up to the river, going up sturgeon fishing, stop in at Timberline Sports in Black Duck. They got the circle hooks. The Gamma has the circle hooks you need to go fishing. They have the night crawlers, big tubs full because you need to blob them on. They have pizza. They have guns. They have rods. You could just show up and just have the clothes on, and they'll give you everything else you need to go sturgeon fishing. Well, you better have a boat, or you have.
the only thing they don't have is the boat. I think you could literally buy everything else.
You can buy everything else. Just show up and they'll sell you everything at Timberline Sports in Black Duck. It's a cool shop, and there's got to be 100 million tiny things and lures and stuff every direction in there. You can even buy a hunting blind there if you want. But anyway, Timberline Sports. Get some food, get some bait, get some guns, get some rods, and also I want to thank Sam for helping me with the show here, the Bro Roadshow. And just know, everybody, that we're going to be every Sunday at 7 o'clock for the next 3 Sundays after this. Next week, it's going to be all about walleyes, a deep dive into walleyes, because that's coming up really soon for Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Dakotas don't close. And then Brooke Drace for directing the show, and my creative marketing, Heather Brosdahl. Everybody have a great time, and thanks for joining us. And rock on, Heather says. Retro Heather.